Bridget McKenzie controversy, Deputy PM Michael McCormack had dinner with Prime Minister Scott Morrison at the Lodge last night as talks increase that Bridget McKenzie may be forced to exit the cabinet. Joining us now is Sky News political editor Andrew Clennell. Andrew, thanks for your time this morning. What can you tell us about this dinner? What do we understand what happened there?
Well, of course, they're calling it a normal catch-up. It was Michael McCormack and the Prime Minister and Treasurer. But it is my understanding that Bridget McKenzie is expected to resign from Cabinet as early as tomorrow afternoon. The sports rorts scandal has hit home for the Prime Minister. He's had enough. I don't think there's any doubt that there was discussion between Michael McCormack and the Prime Minister over Turkish pizza at the Lodge last night about her future. Of course, just after 6 p.m. last night, the Prime Minister announced that he had referred her grant to a gun club of which she'd recently become a member, to his department head, the Secretary of PM and Cabinet, Phil Gaetjens, and that was on top of a referral last Friday in terms of her conduct generally around the sports rorts affair. I understand she is being pushed to go, and she is going to go. That's the expectation. Despite this, Peter Dutton was still defending her, the Home Affairs Minister, on radio this morning. Let's have a listen to that.
We're paid to make decisions, and we stand by those decisions. We make them for good reason, and my judgment on what I've seen is that Bridget McKenzie has done exactly that. So it's appropriate that the Prime Minister has made a reference to the Secretary of the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet to have a look at this issue. People should be reassured by that process, but we're not hanging people out to dry. We're not listening to, the Twitter crazies. We are looking at the facts, and we make decisions based on that.
Now, if Miss McKenzie is indeed to go, which is what I expect, you would understand the Prime Minister would see that as an ability to cauterise the wound, in the hope that before Parliament resumes in just over a week's time, the affair can go away somewhat. The trouble with that, I guess, is there's sort of daily revelations about who got the grants. The latest has been around the Deputy PM Michael McCormack today. His son, Alex, is involved with a football club in the Riverina, and it's a $147,000 grant. Now, Mr McCormack says he told Bridget McKenzie about the conflict here and recused himself from any comment or advocacy on his son's football club's behalf, but you can see how the opposition can run with these sorts of things. I've put a question to Mr McCormack's office as to whether he also disclosed on this to the Prime Minister's office or just to Ms McKenzie. Of course, he's Ms McKenzie's boss. But earlier in the week, he was obviously defending Ms McKenzie, although making a point on disclosures too.
Well, in the light of day, I suppose Bridget perhaps wishes she had have said, well, yes, I'm a member of the Wangaratta Gun Club. But
do you wish she did?
Well, again, I say that's a matter for Bridget.
So, Charlotte, it's pretty clear to me that initially Scott Morrison, when he ordered the first review last Friday, was hoping Bridget McKenzie could survive. You never want to lose a member of your cabinet. And that was reflected in some of his comments on Monday when he appeared to still be defending her. But the situation has changed, especially after the gun club revelation. Let's hear him defending her on Monday.
Well, I continue to support the Minister, but I also take very seriously the Auditor-General's report that was handed down, and we're acting on the recommendations that has come forward, and particularly to move quickly with the Attorney-General to clarify some of the legal issues that were raised in that report. But let me say this program was delivering funding to community organisations all around the country. Community organisations that have been raising money at their own barbecues for many, many years to get this support in place. And every single one of the projects that was approved was eligible.
So, Andrew, the big question now is if McKenzie does go, then what happens to the national leadership team?
Well, yes, there's already speculation around this, Charlotte, and the speculation is that David Littleproud would be a candidate. But there's also speculation that Darren Chester, who's close to Michael McCormack, might also be a candidate. I guess they'd want to be avoiding a contest at all costs, but one of the requirements to get Bridget McKenzie to resign was obviously, or why they've been trying to get her to resign, as I understand it, is for Michael McCormack's political sake as well. It's much less messy than, say, the Prime Minister from the Liberal Party sacking someone from the National Party. And so they'll be trying for a seamless transition. Some people are certainly pushing Littleproud's name forward.
There's no doubt that it has been a pretty tumultuous summer for the Prime Minister with the bushfire crisis. Do you think that there's pressure for the coalition to fix this as soon as possible before Parliament sits again?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And the other interesting thing about it is people in government were telling me they wanted a boring year, get politics off the front page. And yet it seems for the entire month, all we've had is politics on the front page, whether it be Morrison's reaction to the fires, his fights with New South Wales over it, and now the sports rorts scandal. So this is the danger if you want to steady as she goes government. There's a vacuum for bad news to get into, and that certainly occurred on this occasion.
Sounds like the only good news might be for Angus Taylor, who's no longer in the headlines.
Well, yes, I think that's right. And even if Mackenzie goes as I expect, I don't have any doubt that Albanese and co, the opposition, will be going on each individual grant, sports rorts and the Prime Minister's office involvement when Parliament resumes in a week's time. Should be some pretty fiery stuff.
We're expecting to have more details in coming hours, coming days on Mackenzie?
Look, like I say, I expect a Friday Arvo special, really. I mean, certainly the indications are that the Gaetjens report will be ready by then, and then I assume that it'll find that she hasn't done the correct thing with her ministerial declarations. But that dinner between Morrison, Frydenberg and McCormack's pretty telling in terms of what's about to occur as far as I'm concerned.